Here in St. Augustine, we love to talk about the origin of our town as well as the founders who made that occur. However, there's an additional portion of our history, a place and its people that were equally as crucial to the continuation of our town. A history that was almost lost due to deterioration over time that has only been revitalized through the hardworking efforts of local archaeologists. Please join me today in learning about the people and the history of Fort Mose. This video contains excerpts from the official Fort Mose introductory video, produced by St. Augustine actor and historian Chad Light. Please visit the link in our video description to view the original video in its entirety.
Black sailors, soldiers, servants, and settlers arrived in the Americas in the 15th century, along with the earliest Europeans. These first black colonists were from Spain rather than Africa, and were known as Ladinos.
La Florida had a thriving population of Spanish, Black, and Native American inhabitants. However, during this time, England was also trying to expand their reach into the New World, and La Florida was often caught in the middle. Let's listen to the lead archaeologist involved in preserving Fort Mose's legacy, Dr. Kathleen Deegan.
During the 16th century, Spain considered Florida, La Florida, to extend from the Keys all the way up to the Chesapeake Bay and west to the Mississippi River. That was Florida, and it was Spanish territory, and they did not want any of the other European nations trying to colonize it or explore it or exploit it.
At this time, Carolina belonged to England, and there were numerous slaves longing for their freedom that were serving in the Carolina territory. Listen to the opportunity that awaited these slaves if they could escape and make their way south to Spanish Florida.
In 1686, the Spaniards in St. Augustine began to spread the word that escaped slaves would be given religious sanctuary in Spanish Florida.
Most of what you learned in history is that the Underground Railroad went north up into Canada.
It is a part of U.S. history that's just not well known. The first Underground Railroad runs south. It runs south to St. Augustine, not north.
If you were enslaved on an English plantation, if you could make it to Spanish territory, you would be given your freedom with the provision that you join the militia, became Catholic, and provided some service.
Upon their arrival in St. Augustine, many of the male fugitives from the Carolinas were made members of the Spanish slave militia, and in 1738 they formed a free black company. Having escaped from Carolina, these African Americans knew the region well and would fight to the death if their former English masters invaded from the north.
England had major concerns with Spanish Florida. In addition to the former Carolina slaves escaping and forming a militia, the year 1738 also saw the rise of a fortification and community for the new residents, a location named Fort Mose. However, things did not remain peaceful.
In 1740, English forces attacked St. Augustine, led by General James Oglethorpe of Georgia. During the attack, Fort Mose was captured. All of the Mose inhabitants reached the safety of the Castillo de San Marcos in St. Augustine, where they took refuge along with the rest of St. Augustine's population. Fort Mose was badly damaged in the battle, and the community was abandoned for 12 years.
Although abandoned for 12 years, the site of Fort Mose was rebuilt, and the inhabitants who'd been living in St. Augustine returned to this location to continue providing a first line of defense against northern invasion. Fort Mose served the town of St. Augustine until 1763, when it was abandoned, and the site was reclaimed by the land over time. The current grounds of Fort Mose Historic State Park hold an interactive museum, plans for reconstructing a portion of the original buildings, as well as the Walkway to Freedom, which extends into the marsh to the original community location. We'd like to thank the Fort Mose staff, video participants, and community who worked to keep this story alive for generations. And we'll see you next week at Ancient City Tours.